All right, swingers, welcome to another episode of the Big Swing Podcast. This episode today is brought to you by Baseballism. Baseballism is a premium lifestyle brand for people who love baseball, but not necessarily one particular team. Check out their gear at baseballism.com or one of their awesome storefronts across the country, including 4 in California, and follow them on Instagram at Baseballism. So, our guest here today is Minnesota Twins pitcher and fellow Houstonian Tyler Duffey. Tyler, thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, I've been working out with Tyler for years and just recently found out that I beat him in the state championship in, semifinals back in 2008. Tyler would have been a junior at the time. He went to Bel Air High School here in Houston. I went to South Lake Carroll up in Fort Worth. And it's just total small world, man. Baseball always seems like a small world, but you don't really realize it until something like that happens.
Yeah, it's every day I feel like the world gets smaller and smaller. You know, you run into somebody who knows your friend that played here, and next thing you know, you're texting again. And it's just, the world never stops getting smaller within baseball, especially. It's pretty incredible.
So do you have memories of that? Because, when I think about high school, I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I really, honestly, I don't remember funny things that happened in class. I don't remember, sports. I don't remember anything. So, I'm envious of people that remember stuff like that.
Oddly enough, people who know me, from growing up wouldn't be surprised with this at all, but the thing I remember most is being late for the bus to leave to go to Austin for that series. I guess the tournament they call it. I remember pitching it, part of it. I remember scoring in the first inning. We had a really fast center fielder, Jared Higgins. I think he hit a triple in the first, and then, we didn't have our best showing in that game, but ultimately, we were at state at the end of the day, so I can't complain about it.
Yeah, so that's touching on what you just said, Cooper. How it was a blur. Tyler had to bring that up that they hit a leadoff triple off me, and he ended up scoring. I don't remember that at all. I mean, right. I really don't, and it's so funny. Between football, basketball, and baseball, high school sports are just a total blur.
Yeah, it's all. Like you said, until you hear a name or, someone brings up a specific memory, it's so hard to remember everything. We play so many games and there's so much baseball, especially in our careers, that it's just you need someone to spark that. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, I remember this and that and the inning, the outs. And, it is pretty crazy. Here we are sitting here in 2019 and we played against each other in 2008 or whatever that was.
Yeah. And then played each other through college. I mean, fast forward a few years, you're now at Rice. I'm at Texas A&M.
Absolutely.
Tyler works out in maroon shoes almost every day. Tyler wanted to be a fellow Aggie with me and Cooper, and it just didn't work out that way. Still went to an awesome baseball school in Rice. What was your experience like there, man?
It was incredible. And you mentioned A&M, that was a school I grew up loving. My grandmother used to get kisses on the cheek from my grandfather growing up. He had the white car with the maroon interior, the whole deal. So, definitely an Aggie at heart. But, going to Rice, I wouldn't change it for the world. Got to meet some incredible people. Obviously it's a great school, and it got me to where I am now. So I have no complaints, and doing it all over again, I would have done it again 100%.
So how was that playing at Rice? Because I grew up as a kid. I'm from Houston, so I grew up going and watching Lance Berkman and stuff like that. So just in my head, if I would have saw you playing, the last name Duffey is such a great last name for a nickname. It's just perfect, a nickname. Everyone used to call me Coop. Within 5 minutes of meeting me.
I've been Duff my whole life, and my dad was Big Duff, and my brother was Little Duff, and my mom was Mama Duff. It's just it just
Duffey.
rolls off the tongue so well. And most people. It's funny, when I was at Rice, there's guys who played there. This is maybe my second year there, that they literally didn't know my first name. It was just Duff or Duffy, and that's all there is to it. And so it's just, it's kind of like you said, it's a baseball name, and it just fit well. And I've been Duff for my whole life.
Yeah. So we talked about A&M, and one of the biggest pulls for Ross and I wanting to go to A&M, I'm sure, was being in a big time football program,
right?
And big SEC and Big 12 football was it was a huge deal. When I was deciding where I wanted to go to college. So how was that as someone that I know likes football? Was that tough to go to a school that wasn't a big emphasis?
It was one, at the time baseball was getting me there. So at the end of the day, that's what mattered. There were some schools that had reached out, and I was fortunate enough to commit fairly early to college. And so I there wasn't too much, second guessing at that point. I guess, it was just, I grew up going to Rice games, like you mentioned, U of H and Rice. You went to both, and I can't say it's too loud, but I rooted for U of H most of those games. I remember catching a home run ball. What was the guy's name? I can't remember. He was a catcher at U of H at the time. Caught his home run ball after the game. Went and got it signed by him. I think it's still at my dad's house. But it's just not having the football was okay, because my now wife, she went to Baylor. Actually, we met at Bel Air. Ended up going up there for a lot of games. So I got to some of the football experience, got to see them when RG3 was there. So it was fun going to football games at Baylor at that time. So I got the good mix of, the Rice, small school. And then I got to go visit, buddies went to Texas and things like that. So, I got the full experience at the end of the day.
Well, one guy that went to Rice that's kind of finally getting the recognition around baseball that he deserves because he got to play on the national stage is Anthony Rendon.
Yeah.
You've obviously known since 2009-10 how good he was. I've known too. I remember one time I basically tried to hit him. It not because I didn't like him, it's because I knew I couldn't get him out.
Right.
And he was the only guy in your lineup, and I basically it was like 3-1 or 2-1, and I was like, screw it, I'm just going to brush him back or whatever. And it was going to probably hit him in the chest, and he hit a single up the middle.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is so ridiculous. Like, he was, AA, AAA ready while he was in college. Probably could have hit in the big leagues. I was curious, give listeners kind of a taste of what, 18, 19-year-old Anthony Rendon was like.
Yeah, and actually, I played against him when he was at Lamar, our rival high school. And he was good then, hitting balls, off the light poles and things like that. And, get to Rice. I knew who he was. And then you get there and you see just it. The best way to describe it is the game was in slow motion. Nothing. He's never caught off guard. Never was caught off guard for that matter. And he just kind of plays. He doesn't speak. He's not yelling. He's not doing anything because he knows everybody else is going to talk about how good he is. And that's. And it sounds funny, but it's just how humble he really is. And honestly, the one I tell people to this day, and I remember it so vividly. We're taking BP. And, he's hitting balls all over the place from the right side. So we're clearing the field. BP's over with. And he decides to go up there. And he's like, all right, throw me one more. And he literally goes up left-handed. One swing, one pitch, hits it onto the street behind right field. I'm sitting there I'm like, is this who I'm going to be competing against at the next level? Like,
this is one of those stories I heard, and I was like, that's BS. That's not true. That's like a Babe Ruth story,
right.
Where
It's unbelievable.
I heard it from some dude's mom one time at a grocery store, and there's something about Anthony Rendon. You're like, okay, lady, whatever. Yeah. And then you hear it from a guy that was actually there that's true. That's impossible to do. Most people can't even put wood on the bat.
Right, that's
wood
what
on the
I'm
ball
saying.
From the left side.
And it was at the time it was so impressive to see him. And I think this is when like Pujols was kind of doing his 10 years of 30 homers and everything. And obviously he's an ungodly player. And you see Rendon go up and do this thing, and I'm just like, well, like, how do you get this guy out? Like, what do you do when you're facing this guy in a game? Like, how do you even get around him? And you have to get lucky. I mean, and you saw him do what he did this year. I mean, it's no mistake that he is who he is, and he's doing what he's doing.
So let me get this straight. He just smoked one into the med center.
Yeah,
left-handed.
Yeah, so he goes up right-handed. Hits his full round at BP, and I think is it Rice Boulevard, runs behind right field. Literally just hit one on the Rice Boulevard from the left side. One swing, one pitch, and it was one of the. You're standing there, you literally your hands, palms up, like what are we doing here? How does this happen? And
why are we on the same field?
Yeah, like how? What? Yeah, we're not supposed to be wearing the same uniform. It was impressive.
So you talked about like how chill he was and like effortless his game was.
Right.
This was really my first exposure. Like, I'm not a huge baseball guy. This was my first exposure to him really like on a big stage. And I texted Ross during the World Series. I was like, this guy has zero heartbeat. Like, it's unbelievable to watch. Like, he hit that homer in the World Series, and he didn't breathe. Like, I haven't seen him breathe.
It's expected, man. He knows how much hard work he puts in. We see him all off-season work, and he just, you can't say enough good things about him. He's just a great guy all around, and I'm fortunate to have known him for a long time, been good friends with him for a long time.
He's one of those at bats that you remember, and it's maybe because Soto is there too. So like between him to Soto is like a very memorable duo. Yeah. Because Soto does the crazy stuff in the box, and he's grabbing his junk and smiling at you, and then Rendon is standing on his back foot, just like chilling. Looks like he doesn't even want to be there.
Daring you to throw it close.
The yawn in the wild card game is one of the best things I've ever seen. He's about to come up with a chance to win the game, and he's yawning as he grabs his helmet.
Yeah, man, he's like I said, it's slow motion. We're all trying to worry about getting him out, and he's just worried about all right, what's for dinner tonight, kind of thing. It's something special.
Yeah, you talked about Soto and him being back to back in the lineup. They're kind of like, in a way, both have no heartbeat. They're both like chill, but just in their different ways. Like Rendon's so calm, and Soto's all over the place, but they both seem like fully comfortable.
Right, that's their comfort levels individually. It's he's the showman. He wants the crowd to hate him or to love him, depending on where he's at, and he wants to hit the ball off you and take the bat to first base and all that good stuff. It's baseball's a crazy game with a lot of personalities, and those are two great examples of it.
So a lot of people know that we work out with Rendon, and a lot of people were, ask me, where's he going to play? What kind of contract does he want? He kind of has this rumor around baseball, at least in our locker room, of the people that have kind of talked to him, got to know him, is that he kind of just wants to play 4 or 5 years and maybe duck out and go join the real world or take care of his family or whatever, when he's going to have every bit of a 8 to 10 year deal on the table for as much as some of these other guys signed last offseason. So curious where you think he might end up, and we don't have to talk money, but if you have a ballpark estimate, throw it out there.
I think he'd love to be, somewhere near home. I think he really enjoys being around family and friends. He went to the World Series. I think he had a lot of people in town, in Houston for that game or those games, I should say. And, if you're from Texas, you grew up here, there's nothing else like it. You've been in California for a while. It's ultimately one of those places I'm always going to call Houston home, Texas home. I think he'd like to do the same. But at the end of the day, when somebody wants to offer you some money, it's going to be hard to say no to some people.
So as first reported on the Big Swing podcast, he's going to the Astros.
I said the state of Texas.
So, you work out together. Ross was talking about the contract. Is he the first guy in the training room that has to buy lunch, buy dinner?
If he's getting
doesn't, it's wrong.
Some big boy checks. We may have to negotiate for something for the old guys at FSP.
Yeah. All right, man. Well, let's talk a little bit about the World Series. The team we talked about a lot, the Nationals. I mean, what was your impressions? Is that what you expected, those two teams finishing off there?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, Ross, but, the Nationals beat the best team in baseball, I think, in beating y'all in that series. And, they came back to do it. Harry Kendrick had an unbelievable series, against y'all. And for that matter, it was a lot of veteran guys that, the moment was never too big for. I think, we talked about those two, but I think all of that whole lineup, they had a lot of veteran guys who have been around a long time waiting for that moment. And, they saw it and took it. And it was a weird series. Every team was won by the road team. I mean, every game was won by the road team, which is literally never happened. Never happens. And so, it was pretty special to watch. And obviously, being from here, Houston got their series a couple years ago, so it was nice to see the Nationals, a guy like Ryan Zimmerman, who's been around for so long, with that team, get one for that city. It's always special to see that.
Yeah, what a story, right? I mean, they were 19-31. They were trying to fire their manager, and then you go win a World Series. I mean, it is a really cool story, and they earned it. And their guys stepped up in every big situation. I mean, they had 5 come-from-behind victories. They had no business winning the wild card game.
No.
And they find a way to win that one. They have no business winning Game 5 against us. And then they just, go basically kick the, snot out of the Cardinals. And then battle the Astros, who I think most people picked them to win, no doubt.
Yeah, that was a shoe-in, no doubt.
And so they earned it. I think we'll look back in 10 years and just be like, wow, that team.
Right, and that series will stand out forever. I
think it's one of those things where, you can't say this for sure, but it's kind of one of those instances where like a good team beats talent, and they're crazy talented, right?
Absolutely.
Between the starting pitching and Soto and Rendon, and that lineup is full of experience, like you said. But they seem like they're just like boys up and down the lineup, like they're just really good. But you watch the Astros, you say the same thing, but something about a team that like grinds together, didn't expect to be where they are, and then they get there, they can kind of keep that same mentality versus the Astros, who maybe even us a little bit, the Dodgers, who kind of expect to win, and the idea of like the locker room actually really comes into play there.
Yeah, no, and you could see it. They added a couple guys, I think, at the deadline, but otherwise that was the team they left camp with. And Strasburg really came into his own, which I think was huge. Scherzer, he had a little injury deal had halfway, and they all showed up at the right time, and did their respective jobs when they needed to. And I think that you always hear in baseball, especially, you got to get hot at going into September. Well, they won that wild card game and kind of never looked back. And, it's just, baseball's a crazy game. Anything can happen anytime. And you got Garrett Cole and Justin Verlander going, you expect to win some of those games. And, it just flat out didn't work out. And, like you said, the Nationals were a really damn good team, and, they showed up.
I mean, it's similar. Like you were talking about a team that necessarily wasn't expected to win. It's like the Astros in 2017, really talented, obviously. Mm-hmm. Like they were talked about as a potential winner, but like it felt like they were still sort of the underdog. And it's kind of like how the Warriors were like back in the beginning of that run.
Right.
Like it was just like they're really talented, but are they ready yet? And then they prove they are.
It clicks, and you never know what can happen.
So we saw Strasburg opt out. Like, does that mean he's opting out to just get more money, and do you think he's going to stay? Because I think he probably just stays because he had like 4-year, $100 million. He can get a lot more than that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I think I saw something already that there's mention of him going to San Diego, which would make sense. He's from there, played there in college, and you never know motives. Guys, they seem happy. And obviously someone's never going to say anything unless they just want out of somewhere altogether. But in the back of guys' minds, there's still that place they would love to play, or the city they loved growing up that would love a chance to go there. It's kind of like the Garrett Cole. Like, you don't know where he's going to go, but you've already heard, oh well, he's from he grew up and loved the Angels, or this and that and the other, and it's like you really don't know until it happens where somebody's going to go. And so it'll be an interesting offseason, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you get a chance to go home. How cool would that be, right? To get to pitch where you're from, besides for the tickets.
Right. Yeah,
ticket situation would just be so brutal. You got like everybody coming out of the woodwork to say, "Hey, can I come to this Tuesday game? I need 11 tickets." You're like, "No, dude."
Yeah, just go buy a suite at that point, I guess, and just rent it out for whoever wants it. Yeah, it'd get interesting.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, let's move on to the Twins, man. So, looking at it. Once again, small world. You and me were both fifth rounders in 2012.
Right, I didn't know that either.
I know. Another thing I didn't know until I checked Tyler Duffey Wikipedia. So it's crazy to look kind of the whirlwind of the Twins, man. So you guys weren't that bad in 2015 when you made your debut.
Yeah, almost snuck in.
Yeah, but you had 99 losses in 11, 96 in 12 and 13, 92 and 14, and then 103 losses in 16.
Yeah, that was a long season.
Yeah.
I got to endure pretty much all of that as a starter, and it was less than ideal.
Right. So then you guys make the wild card game in 17 and then win 101 games this year in the division.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So we talked about it a bunch about kind of rebuilding it the right way. The Astros basically did it the right way. Obviously, you go out and get Cole Verlander, Greinke, but a lot of their lineup is homegrown. So you look at what you guys did. You draft Buxton and Berrios, international signings, Kepler, Sanu, Rosario, Polanco. Like, you guys have grown in-house and done it the right way.
Absolutely. Yeah, we so it's weird, not weird, it's a pretty cool story. We, in 2012, our rookie ball team won the championship. In 2014, I believe it was, or 13, we won the high A championship, if I'm not mistaken, and then 15 Chattanooga Lookouts we won as well. And on each of those teams, that Lookouts team was actually, most of those guys you just listed started the year on that roster. And it's pretty cool, fast forward to all be on that same Twins roster in the postseason, still playing together. Like you said, we all got drafted together right around the same time, and then all developed together, and ended up in the major leagues. Playing really well, which is, it's how you want it to happen, and it's just pretty amazing for me even just to sit back now and realize all these guys, we all came up together as babies in baseball, and then now we're here, and it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's more ideal to say be drafted in a situation like Ross was, like in an established team.
Absolutely.
But like at the same time, it's kind of nice because you do get to make mistakes, and you do have opportunities you maybe wouldn't have otherwise had. Yeah,
we we got to learn on the fly. I had that year in 16. I was a starter for the whole season, and I had several 2-inning starts where I was just getting pummeled, and there's ones where I threw great, and that team losing that many games obviously is not what you want to happen, but it also allowed guys like me and Buxton and Rosie and Sano to get up there, and Berrios for that matter, to get up and get that experience, and experience loss. Losing, you learn so much from losing, as much as it is terrible to deal with. It's one of those things after the fact you learn so much from, and I think it's the reason so many of us have kind of hit that corner and turned, to greener pastures and gotten to where we are now.
So you talk about like kind of turning the corner. You sort of did what Ross has done, like kind of started and came out of the bullpen. This year was more permanent in the bullpen. Like, do you think that was really what clicked for you?
Yeah, and we got a new pitching coach, along with a lot of people behind the scenes. I won't bore you with all of that, but basically they all got together and said, look, like each of you individually have these things you're already really good at, so let's really hone in on getting those and polishing those and making them effective. And, I showed up to spring, changed my delivery a little bit, started working on different locations that I wasn't used to. And so I was walking some guys and then had outings where I was throwing really well, striking outside, whatever. And it's like, okay, I could see it, coming to fruition. And, started here in AAA, kind of, had to hone in on that a little bit better. And then once I finally got up there, and got my feet under me, it clicked, and it's pretty crazy. I mean, you were an all-star, was it last year, 2 years ago? It's just, you hit that stride, and it just, it's kind of, you just go, and you don't really think much about it. And, I was fortunate to do that, for literally the second half. It was fun to be a part of, and, fun to be a part of a 100-win team. I mean, that's something special, especially in Minnesota. We haven't done it in a while, and, I was really glad to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were 400-win teams this year.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, it's crazy.
People ask me all the time, how do you handle bouncing around back and forth, starting and relieving? How, or just what's it like? How do you deal with two different routines or the inconsistency? Do you think now kind of actually them kind of telling you, hey, you're going to be in the bullpen and this is what you're going to do, helped out?
Yeah, for sure. Because every spring I've been built up to 100 pitches, which, it's taxing overall. By the time you get through a season, even if you go to the bullpen at the end of spring, you've still used so many pitches already, that you otherwise wouldn't have. And I think that's where, my velo ticked up a little bit from that, I think, and just getting into a solid routine of not having to do both, or worrying about, all right, am I going to be the long guy today, whatever. I just, went out through my inning and get on and get ready for the next one. And I think, for any guy, they'll tell you, having, I won't necessarily say a role, but what you're going to do every day. It makes it really easy to show up and do your job. And I think, our coaching staff did a great job this year of getting guys in situations to succeed, and, it showed.
One thing I want to touch on is how stupid bullpen pitchers are, right? I don't mean like actually not smart. I just mean like you're down there for sometimes 6-7 innings, and just having to waste time.
Conversations.
And where your mind goes. And I was trying to think of stuff that's come up this year of just like would you rathers or something that just gets barked out. And the one that came up that I now remember, and I'm almost positive Joe Kelly came up with it, but I'm not positive, so I won't directly quote him, but it was Game 7 of the World Series. So we just had one. This was months ago that he said this. But Game 7 of the World Series, would you rather go 7 shutout and get the win, or would you rather go 9 shutout, get the win, but in the second inning you pooped your pants? And everyone knows it.
Physically pooped your pants?
Yeah, you pooped your pants. So then you go the last 7 innings with poopy pants. But everyone knows it.
Do you get to change your pants, or do you have to ride it out?
No, you're like superstitious. You're stuck.
Oh, my goodness.
So this is the stuff that goes down in the bullpen, people.
Right. No, this isn't out of bounds.
I mean, those poopy pants would go to the Hall of Fame like Schilling's socks. They'd be sitting right next to him.
Damn. I don't know. Yeah, that's I mean, you're already there, right? I'd probably want to throw the CG, honestly. Yeah. I mean, you don't hear about guys going 7 innings in the World Series. You hear about the guy who went, Jack Morris goes 10, that kind of stuff. So this would probably be the 9 innings with some.
I mean, you hear about the guy that goes 9 innings, but you definitely hear if he has shit in his pants.
Right? Yeah, you're a legend forever.
I guess.
I guess that's a sign of toughness. However you want to say it, but it's I'd probably want to go 9 just for the story alone.
So I wonder though if both scenarios you actually win the game too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if you win, if you win the entire game in both scenarios, I think I'm going 9 with shit in my pants.
Yeah, that's I think I am too.
Then you get a diaper sponsor.
Yeah, I mean, it's limitless at that point. You're so famous at that point for having shit yourself. So
when I think about, Ross always talks about how the conversations get so weird. I always picture like a long car ride. And like my parents live in Florida, so I remember, always driving back. It's like,
right.
10 hours away or something. And by about like hour 6, you just start losing your mind.
Yeah.
And then you're just like creating these scenarios in your head. That's how I like to think about it.
Yeah, there's so much silence, honestly. If you're not talking, you're just sitting there, and you become a fan that's not allowed to like cheer like all the time. Almost, it's just you're just kind of a person that's in a uniform until the phone rings. There's not much going on, and like you said, you can get some dark holes out there in the bullpen. Some things that I would never want to talk about. Honestly,
it's so true. And then the best part of it is is how I bounce around back and forth. So I'll go down there and I'll spend a month in the bullpen, and you'll get like used to this. And this is what I expect during games.
Right.
And then I'll go into the dugout and I'll sit between like Kirsch and Bueller, who are, Kirsch is pretty serious. I mean,
analyzing the game.
Yeah, but he's watching the game, and I'll be like, so, dude, check out this scenario. And Kirsch will be like, shut up. All right.
Yeah, it's definitely the dugout is a different environment. Even, like you get done with an outing and you get in there and like you kind of want to, talk, whatever, you're done. So you're kind of cashed out, and everybody else is like so focused on whatever it is they're worried about. And you forget, I like to tell people we're like zoo animals out there, honestly, because the fans, you can look at us, but don't feed them, don't touch them, whatever, but they can still yell at you. And then, you might get to be shown to the crowd, for that game. Otherwise, you just hang out there, and getting to be in the dugout, especially after you throw well. You're like, all right, I'm here. Like, hey, what's going on, everybody? And then next day it's just, all right, go get in your hole, and we'll let you know when we need you. So it's definitely a different environment.
So we have Tyler. Without even knowing, we've done everything together, man. We played high school together, college together, came up the minor leagues, got drafted together, and this year we're going into arbitration together, first time. I'm excited to go through it. I'm a finance guy in general, and just the whole process of arbitration is kind of interesting and pretty outdated structure compared to other sports, but it is what we got. So curious. How we're comps. I was looking at our stats were super similar.
Absolutely.
This year, you ended up
need
flying
you to get
by
some
me.
money.
Yeah, you flew by me in games. I have a few more starts, a few more innings, but you have way more appearances than me. So it'll be interesting to kind of see what happens.
Yeah. It's baseball is definitely different, and it's kind of cool, now, like you said, we're comps. It's literally you get compared to another guy who does your job, and they determine whether you're worth more or less than him. And, it's kind of the first time that we'll get to negotiate a little bit for ourselves, which I think is pretty cool. But at the end of the day, it's, we work so hard to get here. And I think that's, it's finally a reward, I guess is how you could say it, that we get this opportunity to kind of haggle a little bit on our own behalf and see where it takes us. And then, hopefully have another good year after this one.
So Ross said that when he was breaking that down, he said that it's kind of outdated. Like, what is your opinion on it without saying too much? Going
that's I heard that and I was like, okay. It's different. I wish I could tell you like how, like NFL, I guess like guys sign, like especially the high draft picks, they just get a contract, and then like I guess Rendon actually, he went straight to the 40-man. I think when he signed, got like a big league deal, and so those things are kind of in the past, and so. Especially for, like guys who don't necessarily get a huge bonus or anything like that. Like this is our first chance to like really make some money. And it's a different, I still don't even understand the whole process. It's just different. And, you sit down and you're going to hear how bad you are from a team that wants to keep you. And it's just a very unique, I try to explain it to people and they're like, wait, what do you mean? It's like, we literally sit down and they're going to tell me how bad I am, but they want to hang on to me though.
To save like $200,000.
Right. Or 50 at that point. It costs more for a lawyer than it does to have for the discussion alone, then you could just hand it over. It's just it's a weird deal. And, hopefully it's all good things come out of it. I know there's been some guys publicly that have said some things and you're glad they said it so you don't have to, but it's just it's a unique thing, to baseball. And, I wish there's better ways to do it. I guess if there was, there would be, it'd be happening already. And, for all we know, they're discussing that, it's, things change, quickly sometimes. And, you never know what next couple of years it could be completely different.
Yeah. On the concept of money, there's an extremely interesting thing, Coop, that Duffey did, and I actually had the opportunity to do as well. And it's a company called X10, and what they do is they come up to you and say, there's some algorithm that they put together. And so think about a mutual fund. A mutual fund is 100, or however many, let's say 100 stocks into one fund. And if 50 of those do great and they take off, then it doesn't necessarily matter how the other 50 do. So what a company has come and done is basically treated human beings, athletes, baseball players in particular, as individual stocks, and they put you into this fund, and they come and say, we think you're going to make this much money in your career according to our projections or whatever, and we're going to offer you X amount of money right now in your bank account, but moving forward, you have to pay us 15% of every dollar that you make on or off the field. So if you're a kid in AA or just up to the big leagues or whatever, and someone comes and offers you a pretty big chunk of money, and all you have to do is say, yeah, I'll give you 15% of my money moving forward. It sounds like a pretty good deal, and a lot of times it is. And what they think, this company X10, as far as I know, is kind of like, man, if we get 20 of them to absolutely take off, we're going to get our money back plus some. And they basically take opportunities on kids. And anyways, Tyler is one of the ones that did, one of the very first ones.
Yeah. Andrew Heaney, I think, was the first. And then there's a group of us that they kind of rolled out. And oddly enough, Jonathan Scope ended up with us last year. He was the guy who did it. And, I wish I'd talked to him about it. But it was one of those things that was presented to me, and in the moment, the numbers, I obviously won't go into those too deep, but it was just one of those things. It was security that I had never had before, I think is the best way to put it. I'd seen so many guys that I played with that, maybe got up to the big leagues for a little bit, got hurt, never got back, and were done. I obviously went to school for 3 years, so I got to finish a degree at some point. And I talked to a lot of people that, I trusted and were close with, and, it was a thing that at the time it completely caught me off guard, but then I realized, what it meant for me on the back end. I was like, these people think a lot of me, first of all, to offer me this, because they were assuming I'm going to have a successful career. So I was like, why wouldn't I do this? Ultimately, it's security for me and my wife, and I don't have to worry about, when she can come see me now. It wasn't like, okay, we got to wait a month so you can fly up and see me so I can, get a paycheck, finally, or something. And, it just took a lot of the stress off that I saw a lot of guys having to deal with, guys having kids in the minor leagues. I feel for those guys so much, making $10,000 a year, with a baby with them, things like that. It's just, it's a whole nother animal in the minor leagues. And it's something that I think weighed heavily on my decision. Obviously I was in the major leagues, had some success that year. But it was a pretty easy decision for me. Obviously I'm banking on myself. I want to do well, and I expect to have a great career. But at the same time, I was like, you only get one chance at this, especially. Is like, why not do it? And if it works out, great. And, if I end up, quote unquote, losing out on this thing, which, it'd be hard to do, then I'm in a good spot anyway. So, it was a win-win for me in every possible way.
So you talked about kind of like the logistics of being in the minor leagues. Ross, you've talked about it before, like when you would be called up or called back down, like Shelby didn't know where to go to come meet you. And then, but I also think like, about the injury part, which is kind of an interesting wrinkle to it. Like, I wonder how much this X10 will play into like how honest people are about injuries. Yeah. Like, I wonder if that's a thing. Like, if they're coming out and they're like, look, I know my elbow's messed up, but right, like I'm going to sign this X10 deal. And then I guess that's just the risk they take to just let people pop on.
Yeah. And I think a lot of that goes into their decisions, and, obviously I won't speak on their behalf completely. They've kind of changed dynamic, with people, what they're doing exactly since I've first started. I guess it was almost 5 years ago. But it's definitely, they do their homework in every way possible. They want to make sure not just a good player, but a good human beings. I think that's a big thing too. Last thing, you have a brand and you want to represent someone, and then they go do something ridiculous, and it's like, okay, well, how does that look now? And so, it's a great group, and it was more on post playing career. They're, everything they have as well. I think one of the ones they said was like Vernon Davis loves curling. And so he was like a co-analyst for curling, like during the Olympics or something like that. Cause these people have so many connections, and they're these crazy intelligent people with, successful business ventures elsewhere, just all over the place. So it's a network, just like Rice or A&M, people. It was another, just extending my network as well for after I'm done playing. Those are people that I can call on, and anything I could ever need, you never know what could happen.
Another one's Crazy Coop that's a little bit on the same lines, and I feel bad that I can't remember what they're called as of now. He went to Stanford, and he started this company, and the thought of it is us three, we get drafted, and let's say two more. Let's say there's 5 total of us that just got drafted. We can pool together, and we can agree on basically a percentage that we will pay each other moving forward if 3 of us make it and 2 of us don't. So it's like a hedge where, let's say us 3 go to the big leagues and we each make $10 million. Well, we pay 5, 7, 10%, whatever we decide, to the 2 guys that didn't make it. So
Just make a pact.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what it is. It's like a pact with your buddies that say like,
sign
dude,
one of
if
those
you make
with
it, you
Rendon
better
real
take
quick.
care of me. Yeah, it's like one guy's going to be Vinny Chase and one guy's going to be Drama, and that's just the way it's going to be. But I thought that was a cool idea.
It's honestly, it's kind of like how you do with like a lottery. You know, like I always say that with my brother. You're like, if you win the lottery, he's like, I promise you I'll give you X amount. If I win it, I'll give you X amount. That's interesting. That's a really cool concept. And then the X10 thing is like, I've never heard. I think that's something that like the general public would have no idea about. I don't know if they like try to keep it sort of secret. I don't know. And also a question is, do they only do it for people that are coming into the league, or will they say like, hey, I want to do this for a guy that's 4 years into the league?
It's definitely more of a younger group. You know, obviously a guy who has a contract isn't going to be worried about, you know, having some money to, you know, not have to worry anymore. I haven't spoken, you know, on the, obviously I don't want to speak on their behalf again, but it's just, you know, it's such a different thing. And like golfers, I guess the idea kind of came from golf. You know, it's the old, like, you know, the old timer hanging out at the clubhouse sees this kid who's good and he can't afford to get in tournaments. So, you know what, all right, here, I'll pay for you to get into these tournaments, your travel, some new clubs, whatever, and you just give me some kickback whenever you start winning. And I think that was kind of the idea. And then from that, they figured out, okay, you know, and they've got NFL guys and some golfers and baseball guys as well. And it just kind of, it made sense. And it's all pushing for good. There's no like, you know, negative side of it, I guess. You know, it's just everything is ultimately rooting for the player to make as much money as possible, and you can't ask for anything else.
Yeah, I remember that being the coolest part about it when I sat down with them was I was thinking, I mean, there's no way they don't get their money. You know, I was thinking if they pay me, and I won't get into it, but let's just say it was $100 million, just to even blow by it. If they give me $100 million, there's no way they're not going to get their $100 million back. Like, what kind of world is this where they can give you millions of dollars and you not be obligated to give it back? And that's what I remember thinking was so cool is that is very true. What Tyler just said is they want you to succeed, and they're banking on the guys that they pick to succeed. If they pick 100 guys, they're banking on 95 of them to go succeed. Yeah, a couple are going to get hurt or burn out or not make it and all that kind of stuff. But they're doing their due diligence and assuming that if we like you, you're going to have success. We don't, you know, if you don't, tough luck. I know you gave it your best bet, but we don't expect you to go, you know, be a slave and find a way to pay us back.
And that's you know, at the end of the day, they, you know, when you talk to them on the phone, that they say, you know, anything you need, let us know, because it's literally anything. It's not just sports related. You know, any way possible they can help you, they can and will. And you know, that's like I said, it's something else that really sweetened the deal for me.
It kind of legitimizes the like street agent thing. You know, you hear like you hear like in kids growing up playing basketball or something, and they're 14, they got a lot of promise, and some random dude's like giving them tennis shoes or giving them money to get by.
Remember me.
Yeah, and then it's like, you know, they try to screw them once they finally get famous. But this, like, you know, structures it and legitimizes it. Right. Because it's a great concept. Like, even at the street level, it's like, you know, that's great if they can help a kid to get by or pay for lunch this day.
Right,
you know,
absolutely.
But, you know, you got to have some assurance that it's going to be like in a real contract towards the end of that. But
you don't have to get your, you know, ankles busted up or something in the back lot.
So we talked a little bit about you not going to like a big football school, but I know you're a big football fan. We talk a lot about fantasy here. Like, how's your fantasy squad doing this year?
Doing pretty well. I kind of pulled the rug out from the rest of the guys on the team. We obviously have a, you know, league like most teams do, and you know, I watch a lot of football. I couldn't tell you, you know, players on every team or things like that, but I go into the draft and I'm like, all right, you know, I'm going to see who's the best available. If I like the guy, you know, maybe a couple picks down, I'll take him. Well, one of our advanced scouting guys happened to be in the room, you know, just hanging out. And I looked over and I was like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, nothing, I'm just here to watch. I was like, you want to make some money? He's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, you do my draft and we win. Like, we'll talk about, you know, some payouts here. So I had a hired gun, you know, with our stat guy. And he did the draft for us, and I think we're in second place right now. I think we lost 1 or 2 games all season, so you know, we're doing well so far. I got Dak going in the QB spot, so it's been a good season.
That's exactly what our teams started doing around our league because Farhan was whooping everybody for years.
Yeah, I've heard they're always good. Those guys are always
4 years in
good.
a row. Andrew's always in the playoffs. Friedman's always in the playoffs. So then it like trickled down. Justin Turner got like the next guy in line. Cody Bellinger brought like some dude to the draft this year. Jock brought some dude to the draft. It's just like what happened to just having fun with your buddies?
Exactly.
I mean, there's a lot of money on the line, but At the end of the day, like, you're not supposed to be able to go higher. And I know I'm dogging you now.
Hey,
You did
no,
it, but
but
I remember at one point Joe Kelly had just gotten in. He was like getting ready, opened up his laptop, and he's like getting ready for the draft or whatever. And everyone was already kind of like bitch that Cody has this guy with him, or who is this guy? You know, this is our house. Who's this freaking jabroni coming in? And it's dead silent. The first pick's about to go, and Joe Kelly stands up and goes, "Who the F is this guy?" And just points right to him, and this guy was in total shock. He's like, "Oh God."
Yeah, it's one of those. I walked into the room and I felt overmatched because we got guys that are throwing around like names of DBs for this team, like the third string guy. I'm like, I don't even know one DB in the league right now, And it's just there's things like that. I was like, I'm in over my skis here, so I'm just gonna go with what I know will work, and it's so far so good.
A few pods ago, we dove into Lamar Jackson.
Yeah,
and I remember kind of saying, "Oh, I'm bought in for right now. It's impressive. He's a good athlete or whatever." But I remember I was in Dallas this weekend with my buddy. He turned 30, and he was going to play Lamar Jackson against the Patriots. And I was like, "Dude, you're an idiot. You see this Patriots defense?
Joke's on you."
Yeah, that's what I was going to talk about. It's like, and then I watched that game last night, and there was a couple times where he had no business even getting back to the line of scrimmage, and he ends up busting a first down. And the whole idea that he's the best athlete on the field, no doubt. I mean, it's not even a question. And basically what we talked about a few weeks ago, curious what your opinion is it sustainable? Do you think that the NFL will adjust? Like, I thought Belichick would be able to make a halftime adjustment come out.
Right, do something.
But he just kept doing it.
Yeah.
If anything got better.
I don't know. I mean, it seems kind of that's the way it's going, between, Pat Mahomes doing what he's doing and Watson here and now Jackson, that really, I don't know if you'd say like a 5-tool quarterback. I don't know if that's the right word, or phrase, but it's those guys that are quick. They can move. They can rip the ball down the field if they need to. It's the super athlete on the field. Obviously the Gronkowskis of the world, are superior in most cases, but those guys, it's incredible to watch them run around and see these, giants chasing them, and it's just they can't catch them, they can't defend them. It's just there'll be an adjustment eventually, but those guys they're doing what they're doing for a reason. It's because nobody can stop them.
I think because traditionally the offenses have sort of had an upper hand as far as athleticism, and now it's caught up where the defenders are athletic. So like you have to have a mobile guy back there to compete. But like I think that you probably eventually could scheme against it. Like maybe on 1st and 10 they're running the ball. Like you could maybe be able to eventually scheme, but. Like 3rd and 4, and he drops back, and
you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, you can't scheme against that. You can do all you can. You got to guard the receivers, but like when he's that athletic and elusive, that's his skills. Like 3rd and 4, we need a first down. Like he's almost unstoppable if he decides to take off.
Yeah, because he drops back to pass and you give it up, and then he just runs 10 yards down the field. Yeah. Like, what are you going to do? And then vice versa, you think he's going to run, and then he lets it rip. Yeah. I mean, you can't
teach it. I don't know anything
it
about defensive matchups in the NFL. Someone says dime coverage, I'm like, I don't even know what that means, kind of stuff. But I know the Patriots have a linebacker's last name's Collins, and he's supposed to be like one of the most athletic, fast linebackers. So I thought the idea that they would, I think it's called spying, right, where he just basically mirrors Lamar Jackson.
Lurking in the back.
Tried it for a while, and like he just couldn't catch him.
Yeah, just eating
so
them
alive.
alive.
Kind of like, this dude's a freak athlete. He'll be able to, wrangle him in, and it wasn't even close.
Yeah, you got the J.J. Watts of the world. These guys are just freaks, and they can't even keep up with these QBs. It's impressive.
It really is. I'm anxious to see if it can sustain for multiple years. I mean, Harbaugh, basically, and I listened to Collinsworth talk about it, is how Harbaugh basically said, we're going to take them and we're going to change our whole team. Everything about it's going to now revolve around Lamar Jackson, and they've done it. And they're running the pistol. I think the stat was they ran more plays in the pistol than the rest of the NFL has combined.
Really?
And that's a college offense, right?
Yeah.
You line up, you have like 6 tight ends, 4 running backs, and you just make guys run all over the place, and all of a sudden you're 10 yards down the field.
Yeah, and it's funny. Now I'm thinking about it. We had a guy from Baltimore. His name's Lamont Wade, and he was hyping up Jackson just nonstop, and we're all like, dude, you are out of your mind, whatever. And then he's just sitting at home right now, I know, just laughing, watching him do what he's doing, just picking apart defenses. It's unbelievable.
I think it was Stephen A. Smith or one of those guys this morning when I was working out was talking, and his almost direct quote was, he won the Heisman at Louisville think about how good of an athlete you have to be to win the Heisman at Louisville. And I kind of thought of it the other way because it's not the SEC, it's not the Big 12.
Right, so you got to show out.
But I also thought, well, if you're a good athlete, you're just going to go off anyways. So does it?
Yeah, that's true.
But then the more you think about it, you're like, to get the exposure and to just have it like week in and week out and just be able to run through everyone to win a Heisman in Louisville.
Yeah, and gain that attention and keep it, ultimately.
Is impressive. So, I'm stoked for him. I think he seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's like has like an arrogance to him, but also goes up to Tom Brady after and says like, "You're the GOAT." Like, always will be the GOAT, but I just ran all over your whole team.
Yeah, sorry, but
yeah. It was cool to see them play this game. Like, I'm not counting the Patriots out. I think they're still probably going to be there at the end.
They will be just fine.
Yeah, they're going to be just fine. But like, it was almost like a passing of the torch of like just totally different type of football players that we may see in the future. Like, I don't know that we're going to see someone that's like Tom Brady that, really doesn't have the agility, say, like of a Mahomes or Watson, because, no one's going to be coming out and be just simply as smart as Tom Brady or Peyton Manning was.
No.
So, like, you got to have wheels to be able to move around in the pocket. I think the next step for Lamar, and hopefully he picks up, is one, to try to not take any hits.
Yeah.
And then two, just like feel comfortable using your feet when you need to, but don't use it as a crutch, I guess, because it's just not sustainable long term, I think, health wise. But as I'm saying that, I'm thinking, well, Eli Manning got hurt, Ben Roethlisberger got hurt. Like, so you're going to probably get hurt regardless as a quarterback.
Yeah. Just try not to get hits, the name of the game.
All right, well, let's wrap it up with our Baseballism question of the week. We like to ask our baseball guests this Baseballism question. It is, when and why did you fall in love with baseball?
Ooh. When? I couldn't give you a date. It was probably just growing up, the old days, I guess you could say now. You go to the Little League field, play your 8 a.m. game, and you spend the day there till the sun goes down, whether your parents were, helping at a concession stand or whatever, it's basically daycare for us. And, you'd go up there, and those are some of my earliest memories, some of my, earliest friendships that I have that, still to this day I keep. Were made there, whether it's playing, we call it hot box or pickle in the batting cage. We're ripping tennis balls at each other, getting snow cones for foul balls, all that stuff, all the cliches, they were true. And, you just go up there, you take a bat and a ball and a glove, and at the end of the day, you're like, I guess we go home now, when the sun goes down, just like Sandlot, they lose the ball. It's like, well, now what do we do? It's definitely that Little League, whether it was the first time I got to pitch, on the little bit bigger field under the lights, is the draw of it. But, playing Little League baseball for sure is where it started. I never looked back, obviously, and, I'm still loving playing the game.
All right, great answer. That's our Baseballism question of the week. I love their stuff. Do you ever wear any Baseballism stuff?
I've seen plenty of it. I keep up with it, but like you said, I think I'm a fan now.
Yeah, we can give you a hat. Be sure to go check them out, baseballism.com. So they have this Vin Scully shirt that I shag BP in basically all year.
Yeah, it's a legend.
Yeah, it's the most comfortable thing. But like we said, it's like performance fabric. Their stuff's crazy soft, really comfortable. And so please check them out at baseballism.com. Follow them on Instagram at baseballism. And Tyler, thank you so much for coming on the podcast, man. As we also tell all of our guests, you are now officially a swinger. So
love
congratulations.
Swinging.
Yeah.
No, this is great. Thank y'all for having me. This is a good time.